A very good evening to you and welcome to Live at 9 tonight. My name is Sheila Tsime, joined by Michael Jagwe for sign language interpretation. Let's start with the headlines. In the news tonight, MPs demand special probe into stalled multi-billion parliament chambers.
Within 2 weeks, the clerk will give me the status report on that building.
Can an inquiry finally end the stalled project?
And I think what's required of us now is to create what they call forensic audit.
FDC clears 4 members of Museveni meeting, but Sibambi still faces probe.
And so these ones being junior NEC members, there was no way they could say no.
Is meeting Museveni without approval still a party offense?
You inform the party leadership.
Uganda tightens security at DRC border points in Kasese and Bundibujo. Can Uganda stop Ebola at the gate? Kampala facing public toilet crisis as KCCA lacks land to construct new ones. Are polythene bags Kampala's only option in suburbs?
And if it's an epidemic that comes in, you are going to have,
And the good news is World Health Organization Chief Tedros arrives in DRC with emergency aid to combat the Ebola outbreak.
This is NBS Live at 9 with Sheila Tsime.
Once again, welcome to Live at 9 tonight. Let's get into the stories. Members of Parliament are calling on the House leadership to order an inquiry into the stalled parliamentary chambers. They want the Commission to set up a special committee to investigate why construction has dragged for over 20 years. The demand comes as the Speaker directs the clerk to submit a report on the project's status, while some legislators accuse the Commission of mismanaging the project.
During the second sitting of the 12th Parliament, Speaker Jacob Oboth was concerned by the overcrowding in the chamber, where some legislators were forced to stand while others occupied the public gallery, normally reserved for visitors. He directed the clerk to Parliament, Adolf Mercijet, to provide a report on the status of the building project, describing it as a matter of serious concern.
Within 2 weeks, the clerk will give me the status report on that building and what needs to be done and when it's going to be completed.
The controversial 10-story building was awarded to Rocco Construction Limited in 2016 at a cost of 179 billion shilling. It was designed to accommodate 528 members of Parliament, 670 visitors, as well as housing officers for the speakers and parliamentary staff. However, the cost, according to reports, was later revised upwards to shillings 206 billion and has reportedly risen to 220 billion shillings.
The situation was not embarrassing, but was bad.
But some legislators who have tracked the project told NBS that Rocco Construction Company received about 263 billion in bailout for preferential shares.
The procedure provided that if you are to attend, let's say plenary, you must find a seat well reserved for you. But yesterday, we are seated anywhere. But I don't want to blame government. This is now time to act because I know money is there.
One of the reasons they used it was to facilitate, to rejuvenate it, to make sure it gets blood again, and finish our building. I thought it was going to be finished the following day.
The legislators are now calling for an urgent investigation to establish how the funds allocated to Rocco were utilized and why the project remains unfinished 10 years down the road.
We need to investigate, one, how much money cumulatively has been sunk into this building, the so-called the new chambers, from inception. Then we also look at what percentage is it.
All has been done, financial has been done. And I think what's required of us now is to create what they call forensic audit.
Meanwhile, sources within Parliament say the 11th Parliament leadership ordered Rocco Construction to subcontract electrical works, window fittings and furniture supply, with Parliament paying those contractors directly. But what happened remained a secret. In April 2026, the leader of opposition in the 11th Parliament, Joel Senyonyi, questioned the continued delays in completing the project. But in response, former Speaker Anita Among said the new parliamentary chambers will not resolve the long-standing office accommodation crisis. offices.
Parliament spends billions of shillings to rent office space for members and staff. Why? Honourable Speaker, we are trusting you to fix these issues.
Despite the increased investment, the project's completion date has been extended at least twice, with no definitive timeline currently confirmed.
Now we'll be looking at our opinion poll question for tonight, and MPs demand a probe into stalled construction of Parliament chambers. What is your view? The hashtag is NBS Live at 9. We'll be getting back to that later, looking at your feedback. Now, away from that, the Forum for Democratic Change National Executive Committee has exonerated 4 party members who are accused, alongside former Deputy President for Buganda, Yusuf Nsibambi, of meeting President Yoweri Museveni without the party's approval. The decision follows a NEC meeting that reviewed disciplinary cases arising from the controversial meeting with the NRM chairman. While the 4 members have been cleared of wrongdoing, the party says Nsibambi, who has since crossed to the NRM, would still have a case to answer should he seek to return to the FDC.
Is this meeting with President Yoweri Museveni, whose photographs later circulated widely on social media, that landed FDC Deputy President for Buganda, Yusuf Nsibambi, and 4 other party officials in trouble, triggering immediate disciplinary proceedings within the opposition party? Although Nsibambi has since defected to the ruling National Resistance Movement, the 4 other officials remains under investigation. However, resolutions from the FDC National Executive Committee meeting held on Thursday, May 29, 2026, have now cleared them of any wrongdoing. According to the FDC leaders, investigations established that the 4 officials were not the architects of the meeting, but had been led there by a senior party leader.
They went with our leader, and actually what was in the report is that they were called by the leader, the deputy president. And so these ones being junior NEC members, there was no way they could say no or ask him about where are we going.
At the time, Nsibambi defended the meeting, saying he had sought an audience with President Museveni to discuss the release of several youth political prisoners from across the opposition divide. In the aftermath of the controversy, NEC has now introduced a strict guidelines governing engagement between party members and the leaders of the rival political organizations.
You inform the party leadership. It can be the chairman, it can be the party president, it can be the secretary general. And you say, look here, I have an engagement in the State House and it is about this.
And while Nsibambi has already joined the NRM, the FDC insists that his disciplinary case remains open and would be revisited should he ever seek readmission into the party. Political analyst Dr. John Paul Kasuja, however, argues that the latest interventions may not be enough to resolve the deeper challenges facing the party.
The issue of FDC members joining NRM, most of them go there as spies, others go there as a ticket to join the government of NRM. So it will continue as long as they don't scrutinize the members to join the party, for what reasons. As long as they don't do that, it will always be their top members trying to join government, like Honorable Nsibambi, who has done that.
The Electoral Commission has announced key dates for the Kalangala District Woman MP by-election, with candidate nomination set for June 10th to 11th. The Commission is urging political parties and independent aspirants to begin preparations and comply with all legal and procedural requirements. The Kampala Woman MP seat fell vacant. The Kalangala Woman MP seat fell vacant following the death of Helen Nachimuli.
After Kalangala District Woman Member of Parliament Helen Nachimuli's death, the Electoral Commission launched preparations for a by-election. Electoral Commission spokesperson Julius Muchunguzi says the Commission briefed stakeholders on May 8th, confirming the seat is vacant and the election process is underway. The voters' register has since been updated and displayed for public verification. Muchunguzi says the Commission is now focusing on the nomination and verification of candidates seeking to contest for the position. He notes that nominations will be conducted on June 10th and 11th.
On 10th and the 11th of June, political parties that wish to field candidates to participate in this by-election should have concluded their own internal processes and be able to submit and bring candidates that they have picked in their party primaries.
The Electoral Commission says political parties can now start vetting and endorsing candidates for the Kalangala by-election, and independent aspirants should begin preparations too. However, Muchunguzi cautions all candidates must meet legal requirements and have proper qualifications and documents ready for nomination and verification.
Putting their paperwork together, filling the application and nomination forms, ensuring that they have the nomination fees, ensuring that they have paid that nomination fee, and ensuring that whatever is required in the law is in place.
Some political parties have already completed the process of identifying their flag bearers. The opposition party National Unity Platform has unveiled Irene Nampala, the sister of the late Helen Nachimuli, as its candidate for the race.
And now we call upon all of you to come and campaign as we retain our seat. I have accepted what is being offered to me.
Meanwhile, officials from the National Resistance Movement say their former candidate for the seat, Aida Nabaiga, will once again carry the party flag.
We are going to field the same candidate who contested against the late Honorable, because she got 46% and the other one got 52%. So that gap, I think we can work around the clock.
The Forum for Democratic Change, however, has not yet confirmed whether it will field a candidate.
We will associate ourselves with one of our sister opposition parties, which will have fielded the most strongest and formidable candidates with higher chances of winning this election.
The by-election to replace Nachimuli is expected to take place in June, with the exact polling date yet to be announced.
Moving on, security has been heightened at the Mpondwe border in Kasese and Busunga border point in Bundibujo as Uganda strengthens measures to prevent the entry of Ebola from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Security personnel have been deployed along official and porous border routes with mandatory screening, vehicle fumigation and isolation facilities established to protect communities.
Uganda has intensified surveillance at the Mpondwe border in Kasese district following the Ebola outbreak in neighboring DRC. Security operatives are monitoring both official and porous crossing routes, while all travelers undergo mandatory screening for Ebola symptoms before entering the country. Vehicles are also being fumigated as part of the preventive measures. At the Busunga border point in Bundibujo district, authorities have similarly increased patrols and screening activities to ensure strict compliance with Ebola control guidelines that were recently issued by the Ministry of Health. Isolation centers have been set up at both border points to manage and assess anyone who may present signs of the disease. However, stakeholders say the fight against Ebola is being complicated by what they describe as less vigorous response by authorities across the border in DRC. They argue that differences in enforcement and surveillance efforts could weaken regional containment measures.
Our counterparts across do not seem to be as bothered as we are about this disease. And we believe in working as government to stop disease from spreading here. The measures they have put are not yet adequate because for them it's as if there is no problem.
Authorities also remain concerned about continued movement through porous border routes, which poses a challenge to the disease monitoring and control.
We have identified 24 illegal tracing points, and these ones are all manned by soldiers as we talk.
The UPDF is going to intensify patrols along those porous points to make sure there is no crossing anywhere between Uganda and DRC.
Residents have been urged to remain vigilant, report suspected cases and comply with all health guidelines as efforts to keep Uganda Ebola.
An international response is underway to contain a deadly health crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo and stop it from spreading further. The World Health Organization has declared a public health emergency of international concern after a major outbreak of a rare Bundibujo Ebola virus, a strain that currently has no approved vaccine or treatment. As we speak, the World Health Organization Director General Tedros has arrived in Congo along with emergency aid to coordinate containment efforts.
Relief deliveries authorized under World Health Organization's emergency declaration began arriving in the Democratic Republic of Congo as international bodies rushed to contain an outbreak of the rare Bundibujo Ebola virus, with the WHO officially designating the crisis a public health emergency of international concern. Global agencies are rapidly scaling up aid to support a severely strained medical workforce. A white cargo plane carrying essential supplies donated by the European Union landed in the northeastern town of Bunia, the epicenter of the outbreak in Congo's Ituri province. UN-branded forklifts immediately began unloading and transferring crates of masks, gloves, boots and medications into trucks for distribution to frontline clinics. The head of emergency operations for UNICEF in Congo, Jerome Kaushi, stated that this shipment is the first of several, with more EU-donated aid expected to arrive in batches over the next 8 days. The arrival of equipment comes at a critical time for local healthcare workers who have been operating with scant supplies, sometimes resulting to wearing expired medical masks while treating suspected patients. Responders face immense challenges on the ground, including regional volatility from armed groups and violent resistance from local residents. At least 3 health workers in the province have been attacked due to community anger over stringent medical burial protocols that clash with traditional funeral rites. To help manage the escalating crisis, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom arrived in Congo to witness the response efforts firsthand. Meanwhile, international financial backing has increased alongside the physical deliveries. The United States announced Thursday that it is increasing its aid to DR Congo and Uganda by $80 million, raising its total commitment to more than $112 million since the outbreak began. According to the U.S. State Department, these funds will cover personal protective equipment for health care workers, Ebola test kits, contact tracing, and health screening at airports. In total, 906 suspected cases, including 223 deaths among suspected cases, have been reported from Democratic Republic of Congo and 134 confirmed cases.
Now, people operating businesses around the Namgongo Martyrs Shrine are counting losses following the cancellation of this year's 3rd June Martyrs Day celebrations due to the Ebola outbreak. The affected residents and traders say they had hoped to earn income from the thousands of pilgrims who usually flock Namgongo, but now they are uncertain about how they will recover their investments, which they had made ahead of the celebrations.
It is May 30th, and there are only 3 days left before Martyrs Day, which is commemorated annually at Namgongo on June 3rd. The day is one of Uganda's largest religious events that attracts pilgrims from across the country and beyond as Christians gather to honor the Uganda martyrs who died for their faith. As one approaches Namgongo from the northern bypass, the only visible indication that the Martyrs' Day is approaching is this big billboard erected along the road. The billboard clearly shows that the Catholic faithful from the Diocese of Kasese had been selected to organize this year's celebrations. However, beyond this billboard, the atmosphere is entirely different. There is virtually no indication the Martyrs' Day is ever expected to take place this year. Roads that are normally crowded with pilgrims around this time are empty, save for ordinary traffic. The thousands of pilgrims who usually travel on foot are nowhere to be seen. At the Chaliwajala Junction, the situation is no different. At this time in previous years, road preparations, vendors and pilgrims would already have transformed the area into a bustling center of activity. This year, none of that is visible. Areas that would normally be filled with stalls selling clothes, shoes, food and other merchandise are deserted, with empty streets visible. Some traders had already secured and paid for space to set up stalls to trade merchandise before learning that the celebrations had been cancelled. Some of those who depend on the event for their livelihoods are struggling to come to terms with the decision. Food vendors who usually enjoy brisk business during this period have been left clueless. Inside the martyr's shrine itself, the situation is much the same. The silence that greets visitors immediately signals that this is not the usual Martyrs' Day season. Even the main pavilion offers no sign of preparations. Normally, by this time, extensive work would already be underway to decorate and beautify structures for the celebrations. This year, there is little to suggest that a major religious event was expected. The famous water point where pilgrims usually line up to collect holy water is equally quiet. The long queues that are normally seen there are absent, and without a closer look, one would hardly notice that water is still available. While President Museveni had initially announced that this year's celebrations had been postponed because of the Ebola outbreak, church leaders later clarified that the celebrations had been cancelled. Some of the people we spoke to welcomed the decision, arguing that protecting lives from Ebola was more important than holding the annual gathering.
Government yakoze ekituufu kubanga ekirwadde ekyo kikambwe. Government osobola ginenya kuba yo kunoonyereza ogusinga ffe.
Nkakusaba twali tukwagala naye gwe buba bugwadde oba tolina kyakukola.
The Ebola outbreak, which entered Uganda from the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo, is what ultimately led to the cancellation of this year's Martyrs' Day celebrations.
Still about Martyrs' Day, this year's Uganda Martyrs' Day celebrations will be marked within parish churches and outstations across the Diocese of Kasese following the suspension of pilgrimages to Namugongo as a precautionary measure against the Ebola outbreak in the neighboring DR Congo. The pronouncement was made by the Bishop of Kasese Diocese, Right Reverend Francis Chibida, while addressing the media in Kasese.
The Diocese of Kasese has finalized arrangements for the commemoration of Uganda Martyrs' Day on June 3rd, with celebrations set to take place in parish churches and outstations across the diocese. Addressing journalists in Kasese, the Diocese of Kasese Bishop Francis Akrenas Kibera said the decision follows directives aimed at preventing the possible spread of Ebola into Uganda, making it impossible for the faithful to undertake the traditional pilgrimage to Namugongo this year.
So we shall have masses 3rd June 2026 in all our parish churches. We shall have masses where priests will be able to reach according to how the parish priests will organize celebrations in their parishes. And where priests cannot reach, then we shall have catechists as usual to lead services.
The bishop called upon parish priests, church leaders and heads of institutions to ensure that all standard operating procedures are fully observed during the celebrations. This is, however, not the first time public health concerns have disrupted the event. Large-scale Martyrs' Day celebrations were also halted during the COVID-19 pandemic to prevent virus spread.
All the faithful, I call upon you to listen and to follow the guidance of the parish priests and the government authorities in your different places regarding pastoral and safety measures, respectively.
Despite the disruption caused by the Ebola threat, the chairperson of the steering committee welcomed the decision by the Uganda Episcopal Conference to allow the Diocese of Kasese to unmet next year's National Uganda Martyrs' Day celebrations.
So that is good.
Church leaders have expressed confidence that the decentralized celebrations will enable Christians to commemorate the Uganda Martyrs while safeguarding public health. The annual event, traditionally held June 3rd at the Namugongo Martyrs Shrines, attracts hundreds of thousands of pilgrims from Uganda and neighboring countries, especially the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Feedback brought to you by.
They are designed to support your growth. Visit absa.co.ug for personal loans that help where it matters. Absa, your story matters.
Let's get into your feedback. We'll start with our earlier question. MPs demand probe into the stalled construction of Parliament chambers. What is your view? The hashtag is NBS Live at 9. Let's take a look at your feedback. Derek Taremwa, a transparent audit or investigation is justified. If there is mismanagement of funds, those responsible should be held accountable. If the delays resulted from genuine technical administrative problems, the public should be told clearly what those problems were and when the project will be done. That is from Taremwa. Ariat Click Regan says a probe is necessary to establish the cause of the delays, ensure accountability for public funds and guarantee timely completion of parliamentary chambers.
More to come, brought to you by
blended pure vegetable cooking oil, second best to a mother's love.
When we come back, we'll be looking at Soroti city authorities that have entered the final stretch of 2025 with a strong push to complete infrastructure and service delivery. That story will be coming up after the break. Right now, Live at 9 takes a short break, and we'll be back with more stories.
Eh?
Sorry, the number you have called is currently switched off. Please try again later.
The Kaman is not picking up my calls. He has now switched off his phone. He looked legit, so I paid him 500K to process my NSSF money. How dare you?
Masaka juu. Hawaii. Omwanzi tumuleta soka Christopher Katama owulira otya kati nti owangudde.
Ndi musanyufu nnyo 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 nnyo. Tewali muzadde ayinza obutasanyuka nga bamusasulidde omwaka mulamba, so nebaza nnyo MTN okulaba nti mpangudde. Era nkubiriza abazadde mwena abali eyo nyiga star emu 65 star 80 # naawe oyinza okubeera omu mu baki mu bawanguzi.
And for those of you who pay school fees at those schools that don't use Momo, hey, mubatabukire mubagambe leta Momo wano, because you stand a chance to win a van for the school. This is the power of Momo.
Cooking all that makes food sweet, tastes so good like mama's keys. Sweet Tamasana, yeah. Stir God, it's the oil you need for a tasty meal to live a healthy, happy life. Stir God, refined, fortified, blended pure vegetable cooking oil, second best to a mother's love.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Please fasten your seatbelts. We're in for a thrilling ride. Flight time will be non-stop until the buzzer, and we'll be cruising above the rim. Temperature on the court hot with unexpected cold moves. Cabin crew, we're cleared for season 6 tip-off. It's takeoff time. BAL, rise with the game.
Tired of the limits? Tired of slow connections? It's time to break free. Introducing BCC Net from Blue Crane Communications. Choose the package that fits your life. BCC Lite, 20 Mbps. BCC Pro, 50 Mbps. Or BCC Extreme, 100 Mbps. For every need, every moment. Learning, conferencing, gaming, and so much more. Switch to BCC Net today. BCC Net, fast, reliable, and true unlimited internet. Blue Crane Communications is regulated by Uganda Communications Commission.
If whiskey could talk, Johnny Walker Black Label would sing. With notes that only come with 12 years in a barrel. Sweet, smooth toffee, rich fruit, and a touch of smoke. Tastes as good as it sounds.
I enjoy to look after myself by coming to Don's Organic Spa for massage, pedicure and manicure, facials, salon, like they have it all here. Sometimes I come with my girlfriends twice a week and I feel so refreshed, renewed. Like I'm just so happy that this place is full of life. It's full of life. That's all I can say.
Welcome back. In other stories, residents of Mulago 2 Katale Zone in Kawempe Division, Kampala are raising an alarm over a worsening sanitation crisis. Only 2 public toilets serve hundreds of people. Locals say one of the toilets is already full, while the other is reportedly on the verge of collapse. KCA Director of Public Health and Environment, Dr. Sarah Zalwango, says the authorities lack land in most slum areas to construct new toilets.
According to a 2025 report by former Kampala Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago, 68% of Kampala residents live in congested settlements and share toilet facilities. Another 6.2% have no access to toilets at all and resort to unsafe alternatives like polythene bags. This is evident in Mulago 2 in Katale Zone, Kawempe Division, where over 200 residents have only 2 public toilets, with one already full to capacity and another on the verge of collapse. Residents reveal that due to the lack of adequate sanitation facilities, some people have resorted to using polythene bags, commonly known as buvera, which are later disposed of indiscriminately, thus raising serious public health concerns.
Abakuru ba KCC bajje mu katundu naffe batereyo toilet.
Kawempe Division Mayor Emmanuel Serunjoji attributed the problem to high population density and landlords who construct rental properties without providing sufficient sanitation facilities for tenants. However, KCCA's Director of Public Health and Environment, Dr. Sarah Zarango, acknowledged the challenge and explained that the authorities' efforts to construct additional public toilets are being hindered by the lack of land in most parts of Kampala.
Lack of land where to construct these toilets. We usually construct toilets where we own the land or where the private owner has given us that land. But like it's a slum, it's very hard for us to find that piece of land where we can construct.
Dr. Zarango warned that communities with inadequate sanitation facilities are at risk of disease outbreaks such as cholera, diarrhea, and other sanitation-related illnesses.
And in case you have any outbreak, for example, cholera, or you have viruses or bacteria that cause diarrheal diseases, you are going to have just a high number of such cases. And if it's an epidemic that comes in, you are going to have, it spread very fast.
Now, beneficiaries of the parish development model in Busia district have reported significant improvements in household incomes. The beneficiaries have mainly been involved in piggery, poultry and crop farming enterprises, attributing their progress to government funding under the Wealth Creation Initiative. They are now urging the government to increase funding and expand support services to enable more households, particularly youth and women, to benefit from the program.
The call was made during the exhibition of the parish development model supported projects in Busia district, where beneficiaries showcased enterprises established using funds received under the government program. Among the exhibitors was Adikunyi Margaret Wanyama Majanji, who invested the 1 million shillings in a piggery project, a venture that has grown into a reliable source of income. Adikunyi says she now sells imported pigs at 300,000 shillings each.
I and my husband began this project. It's the one that is helping us to educate our children.
We are now, at least we have something. In any way, anything happens, at least we have something to touch on. So to move us from poverty.
The exhibition was inspected by the NRM National Treasurer Barbara Nekesa Owundo, who commended beneficiaries for embracing government wealth creation programs and putting the funds to productive use.
And is an indicator that Busia as a district is doing well in terms of setting the stage for this agenda. And I want to thank the district leadership for this focus.
She, however, encouraged farmers to adopt irrigation technologies to sustain production and improve yields during dry seasons.
We need now to adapt irrigation. We need to apply more fertilizers. We need to buy and use improved seedlings, quick maturing, improved farm structures, production of animal seeds as opposed to the traditional way of agriculture.
Despite the success stories, concerns remain over challenges affecting the sustainability of some projects.
The first one is that in Busia, the average land holding is 2 acres. That means people do not have a lot of land. So that means that for every acre that one is engaged in, then there must be high input for you to be able to get value from your enterprise. But also the second one is in terms of value addition.
Production Officer Busia Baraza called for enhanced government support, continuous monitoring, and stronger market linkages to ensure long-term success of BDM-funded enterprises.
The National Organization of Trade Unions has raised concerns with President Museveni over the recent cabinet appointments, questioning why workers who are not allocated a ministerial post. NOTU says this creates an imbalance and leaves the workers' fraternity unrepresented at national level. Speaking at the stakeholders' engagement on a migrant workers' protection framework supported by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and the Ministry of Gender, now the International Labour Organization, NOTU, stressed the need to safeguard the rights, welfare and dignity of the migrant workers.
NOTU being a key stakeholder in the workers of this country, it was only important that this framework is put in place. We have agreed on several issues on how to handle what we call migrant workers, how they leave the country, the procedures, and how they should be treated in the recruitment processes, the fees, the trainings, departures, and whatever. We have entered into a framework with the umbrella organization of labor export companies, externalization. But it was a bit unfortunate on the workers' side that we were not able to get a representative who would join the cabinet. And we want to appeal to the president that please look at us. We are part and parcel of the engine which rides this economy.
The ministry affirms and commits itself to support safe, orderly and better migration. That memorandum is strengthen collaboration between ELAO and NOTU and also protect the migrant workers. As you are aware, most of the times these migrant workers tend to be stranded. They don't have where to run to, but if they have a common ground where they feel they are safe and their rights can be backed up, this is why we are here.
In our top stories tonight, MPs demand a special probe into stalled multi-billion parliament chambers, and FDC clears 4 members of Museveni meeting, but Sibambi still faces probe. We also look at Uganda that tightens security at DRC border points in Kasese and Bundibujo. Those are our top stories for tonight. Moving on to social spotlight, we look at what our leaders are saying online. We start with Winnie Byanyima. Spot on. Women are the majority of frontline carriers at home and in health systems globally. Protecting women carriers from infection and rewarding them fairly for their work is not only just, it will strengthen the Ebola response. David Bahati, yesterday we joined our brothers and sisters at the Kenya National Prayer Breakfast in Nairobi. Keynote speaker was our own Uncle Chris Rakasisi, a great global fellowship. I sincerely thank His Excellency William Ruto and Kenyans for the warm hospitality extended to our team. Tedros Adhanom, good meeting with Prime Minister on DRC's response to the outbreak of Ebola disease caused by the Bundibujo virus in the country's east. Now, we agreed that community ownership of the response is a critical component for bringing the outbreak under control, and that the government's experience in ending 16 previous Ebola outbreaks leaves it well placed to end this one. I updated the Prime Minister on the World Health Organization's coordination and collaboration with multiple partners in support of the government-led response. Now, Live at 9 takes another short break, and we'll be back with more stories, including business and sports.
And that's it for today. Till the next episode.
Like a daily bando, like a daily bando, like a daily bando. Omuliro nguwulira muli mu mutima kukankana like drums. Kalakata, kalakata, endungu ya kusabula. We gonna do free on fire, free on fire, free on fire.
Looking for a vacation of a lifetime? Cross the equator and discover Pineapple Bay Resort. Enjoy exceptional life's luxuries. Spend quality time with family, friends, or even that special someone. Get in touch with nature with our range of outdoor activities. The calming tranquility of water, breathtaking views, moving memories around campfires. It's all here. Plus, a club experience like no other at Pineapple Bay Clubhouse. It's a whole vibe. You can hire any of our 3 VIP cruise boats for groups of 10, 14, or 25 people. Or you can cruise out with swag on a luxury yacht for 12 people. Our premium boats are all safety compliant. Make your next vacay an all-round experience at Pineapple Bay, located on Bulago Island, right in the midst of Lake Victoria. Talk to us today.
Better study tips. Stay ahead of scams with double-check URLs before entering login credentials. Scammers create fake websites that look real, aiming to steal your data. Always verify the web address to stay safe. In partnership with Uganda Communications Commission and NBS. June is budget month. A defining this June, Next Media 26.
Masaka juu.
Hawaii.
Omwanzi tumuleta soka Christopher Katama owulira otya kati nti owangu de
ndi musanyufu nnyo tewali muzadde ayinza obutasanyuka nga bamusasulidde omwaka mulamba so nebaza nnyo MTN okulaba nti mpangudde era nkubiriza abazadde mwena abali eyo nyiga star emu 65 star 80 # naawe oyinza okubeera omu mu baki mu bawanguzi.
And for those of you who pay school fees at those schools that don't use Momo, hey, mubatabukire mubagambe leta Momo wano, because you stand a chance to win a van for the school. This is the power of Momo.
Welcome back. Now, persons living with albinism under their umbrella association have expressed growing fear over increasing attacks against them, including attempted killings and cases where criminals target their body parts. These say they are living in fear following continued attacks and threats.
A surge in attacks on persons living with albinism continues to be reported in Chotera, where victims say their lives are at high risk. Sylvia Nachiemba is one of the survivors who narrates her painful experience after allegedly being attacked by suspected ritualists. Nachiemba recounts that on March 8, 2026, she was attacked in Chotera shortly after her relative, who was also living with albinism, was allegedly sacrificed. She says the attackers then set her ablaze, leaving her with severe burns.
Margaret's body was discovered with her arm, breast and private parts removed, and the body was burnt.
Nachiemba says that since the attack, she still lives in fear. She adds that the trauma has taken a toll on her mental health and her sense of safety remains shaky due to inadequate security.
They refuse to accept the message that Sylvia Nachiemba must be protected. Margaret Nakabubi, who was murdered in 2023, must receive justice.
According to members of the albinism umbrella, at least 15 cases of attacks against persons with albinism have been registered within the last 3 years alone. The group says although laws protecting persons with albinism exist, they are not being effectively implemented. They have urged the public to stop the belief that persons with albinism possess wealth or supernatural powers.
Call upon the government of Uganda, the Constitution under Article 21, the right to equality and freedom from discrimination, and the penal code that criminalizes attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder.
The executive director of the National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda, Esther Chozira, says many persons with albinism are currently too afraid to move freely, work, or even attend school because of fear of being attacked.
Including young children who fear to go to school because they know anyone can find them alone. People who fear to go to work because they don't know who they'll find, who wants their body, and among other effects.
Chazira has called on the government to fully enforce laws meant to protect persons with albinism and ensure victims receive justice.
So with this kind of legal framework, including the Police Act, that must track the cases of people who are doing such things to persons with albinism, we thought it important to come and talk about.
Now, from our neighbors, the painful process of identifying victims of the Utumishi girls' fire tragedy has begun at the Naivasha Sub-County Hospital mortuary, with grief-stricken families struggling to come to terms with the loss of their loved ones. Brian Amwai reports that out of the 16 bodies recovered from the dormitory fire, only 3 have so far been positively identified, with the rest burnt beyond recognition. Authorities said DNA testing will be required before any of the bodies can be released for burial. As families demand answers and justice, the government has formed a joint funeral committee to coordinate burial arrangements.
Tears, prayers and heartbreaking scenes marked the start of the identification exercise at the Naivasha Sub-County Hospital mortuary. Relatives and friends gathered to identify victims of the Utumishi girls' fire tragedy, but the process proved difficult as most of the bodies were severely burnt. Authorities confirmed that only 3 of the 16 bodies had been positively identified, while DNA tests will be conducted on all victims before they are released to their families. Among those mourning is Embu resident Njoke Thiba, who lost his niece in the inferno and is appealing for a faster identification process.
And we were prepared to go and view the bodies of our loved ones. So we went there, and I can truly say that those bodies were seriously mutilated.
God, the experience I've gone through is so painful. Watoto wetu, tafadhali wacheni kuchoma mashule. Mukiwa na shida yoyote, address in any way, lakini tafadhali musichome mashule, musichome mabweni, musifanye maangamizi yoyote.
The tragedy has also presented challenges for some families. One Muslim family says they identified their daughter Zura Rama but cannot proceed with the burial arrangements until DNA testing and a postmortem are completed.
Na leo ni siku ya 4. Ni bahati mbaya sana, Zura bado hatujamzika, ya kwamba hatujafuata ile utaratibu ya dini kwa sababu ya uchunguzi wa serikali. Haya mambo yako kwa mikono ya serikali. Uchunguzi ile serikali inafanya ama utaratibu yake hatuwezi pinga.
Parents who viewed the bodies described the experience as traumatic, saying the condition of the victims reflected the horror they endured during the fire.
To see what the parents are going through, even these children will also be parents in future. So we hope that they are not involved in such acts because they end up causing a lot of trauma.
The government has since formed a joint funeral committee to work with the affected families and coordinate memorial and burial arrangements. As investigations into the cause of the deadly fire continue, families are demanding accountability, hoping that those responsible will be brought to justice and measures put in place to prevent a similar tragedy in future.
Business Pulse, brought to you by
Now in business tonight, Soroti City authorities have entered the final stretch of the 2025-2026 financial year with a strong push to complete key infrastructure and service delivery projects. This comes as concerns emerge over revenue performance and long-term planning.
As Soroti City approaches the close of the 2025-2026 financial year, emerging concerns over revenue performance, planning and governance are raising questions about the sustainability of its development efforts. Speaking on the city's progress, Deputy Town Clerk Joseph Mwesekwa said the financial year has registered significant achievements despite a few challenges, particularly due to disruptions caused by the recent general elections.
They had an underpinning on the achievement of many of our activities.
Mwesekwa revealed that the city had projected to collect 3.2 billion Uganda shillings in local revenue, but has so far realized 2.2 billion shillings. He attributed the shortfall to reduced compliance by taxpayers during the election period, but expressed optimism that intensified enforcement in May could help close the gap.
Right now, we are standing at about 2.2 billion shillings collected in local revenue.
On infrastructure, the city has received over 1.8 billion shillings in road-related funding from the central government, with about 90% already disbursed. Several road projects are nearing completion, including low-cost sealing works on Gokia Road and gravelling of the Aminit Agama Road. The roads such as University, Kwaru and Yoka are also undergoing improvements. The city is also finalizing a major drainage channel project aimed at addressing flooding and preventing drowning incidents, while street lighting repairs are ongoing in key areas. In the education sector, authorities report progress in the construction and rehabilitation of classrooms, staff houses and sanitation facilities across nearly half of the city's 29 government primary schools. Health services are also set for improvement, with renovation works underway at the city mortuary. Despite these gains, Mwesekwa cited lack of road equipment as a major bottleneck, forcing the city to rely on borrowed machinery from the Ministry of Works, which has delayed implementation timelines. Looking ahead, the city is preparing to roll out a major infrastructure program worth 30 billion Uganda shillings, expected to commence in the next financial year, targeting roads, public facilities and urban development projects. The newly sworn-in Soroti City Mayor Francis Esudu pledged to improve service delivery, garbage management and job creation as he officially begins his leadership at City Hall.
The other things like service delivery, job creation, this one is a concerted effort.
The mayor identified garbage management as one of the biggest challenges facing the city, noting that inadequate equipment has affected waste collection and disposal efforts. He said the city leadership would engage the central government to secure more machinery to improve sanitation. However, observers like Bebson Eku offered a critical assessment, arguing that Soroti's transition to city status has been poorly managed. He noted a decline in funding compared to its municipal days and pointed to weak revenue systems, lack of a comprehensive development plan and unresolved administrative conflicts with Soroti district.
For this city to grow is to establish a master fiscal plan. Secondly, there has never been an orderly separation between the city and the local government. It is a matter that the Soroti district local government.
As the financial year closes, Soroti City stands at crossroads, balancing visible progress with underlying structural challenges that could shape its future growth trajectory.